Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Azapi here, back again with Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1. We are on Episode 7. In the last episode, Yuji came back to life through a contract that both him and Sukuna had made. We got some information, obviously, on this whole contract kind of conditions situation thing that they can do with each other, and that was the reason why he got brought back to life. There were conditions that we were not privy to. We don't know the ins and outs of exactly what Sukuna asked for, and we won't get that information, I feel, until later on in the show, because one of the conditions as well is that when Yuji came back to life, that he would forget about all of the conditions that were there. So I can feel that at some point, at a very important moment, shit's going to go awry and Yuji's not going to know what the fuck's going on, because I imagine with the way Sukuna is, he's not a very nice bloke, that I think he's going to use Yuji's body. Like, if there could be something like in there that as part of the conditions that Sukuna has a set amount of time that he can actually like be in his form and do whatever the hell he wants, right, with Yuji's body. I can see something like that being the case, and of course with the way Sukuna is, bad shit's going to go down. So yeah, aside from all the conditions and contracts, everything like that, we also learnt about the whole curse energy kind of stuff. So there is just general cursed energy that you use as a sort of like a source, and then cursed techniques which are actually inherent to an individual person. It's something that they're born with. It's not something that can be sort of learned or anything like that. That being the case, though, I mean, Yuji can and will, according to Gojo and what he says is gospel, so we'll go by that. That because obviously Sukuna and Yuji are kind of one and the same, eventually Sukuna's like techniques and whatnot will just bury themselves into Yuji, and then he will be able to use that. But at the time being, he cannot. But he is under training to sort of control the cursed energy. By watching movies and whatnot, and trying to focus at all at once and not like just let it explode out. And then at the very end, we had the volcano curse guy. Still we don't know if that is what he's referred to as, but the fact that he's got like a volcano that erupted head, I imagine he's probably the volcano curse. Obviously he was talking with that one dude who we still don't know the name of, and they obviously want to get rid of Gojo. So the volcano curse guy has turned up, and he does actually have, one of the questions I did have was, does he have that seal that they were talking about, the prison realm seal? And he actually does. So if the volcano guy, his first thing is like he really wants to kill him, but if it comes down to having to seal him away, then he's going to have to, I guess, because I just don't see how this guy can go up against Gojo. I mean, we've talked about this before. Going by what Gojo says, and what Gojo says is gospel, he says that he could take on a 20 finger, like full, all the way back like Sukuna. So, an 8 to 9 finger volcano curse, I feel like doesn't really have a chance. So, however this seal works, I guess we'll find out, because I imagine in this episode we are going to get into that. I'd be surprised if we don't. So yeah, we are going to get in episode 7 and see what we get. So as always, the reaction will be here on YouTube, but if for whatever reason it gets taken down for copyright in the future, I'll re-upload this as a discussion only, and a link to the reaction will be in the description below. As always, a link to the full length reaction to this episode is in the description below as well. So if you do want to watch my full length reaction to this episode and not just the cut 10-minute version, then the offer is there for you. There's also a link to the next episode reaction. So if you don't want to wait a week for episode 8, then the offer is there for you. But yeah, nothing else really to talk about. So you're going to get in episode 7 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. We're in it. Jesus, he can create. If you think that's gonna do him in, you've got another thing coming, man. Shit! He didn't even dodge it, he just took it. Oh yes, I'm excited for this. Okay. Oh shit.
これ当たるとどうなんの？音
Fucking hell. You keep underestimating Gojo, man. You're so overly confident, man. I love the fact he's just taking it as well. He's not dodging. The infinity. This guy. You could be low on your in here. Ridiculous. The slower you go. This is ridiculous, man. Holy shit! He's not even, he's nowhere near the same level, man. Have some of that! He went and got Yuji! About Fuji head. Oh my god, it's Lord of the Rings. It's Sam and Frodo. Oh shit. He can warp. Yeah, that really got to him. How is he gonna stay close to you, dude? You're quick as fuck. What's it? It's just gonna be like a proper, like, full-on volcano domain. Like... Okay. Like Mount Doom. Yeah, that one could only use Curse Energy, didn't have any techniques. Really? I wonder if he uses the prison realm thing. Would that technically hit regardless because he's in his own domain? I don't know. Damn, he's beautiful. Oh fuck. Jesus. It's impossible to comprehend. God. Jesus. Yeah, that's insane, man. He's from the Jujutsu school. It's back. The subtitles are backwards. Bloody hell! He didn't even sense it. All right. Fucking hell. Can't believe he didn't sense him. Yeah, well that'll be why then. Oh god, it's gonna get his ass kicked. He's always late. So I don't know, is this a third year or a teacher or what? I'm gonna assume it's probably more likely to be a teacher, right? Is this another domain expansion?
Jogo, Hanami.
それで済んだだけマシだろ。五条悟は叱るべき時、叱るべき場所。
Yeah.
決行は10月31日渋谷。いいね。真人。
狡猾に行こう。呪いらしく、人間らしく。
Is he part human, part curse as well? Seemingly so. Okay, episode 7. God, Gojo is insane. He's nuts. And he's fucking beautiful as well. Once he gets those eyes out, God. Jesus, it's kind of like looking into a specific kind of void for real. You know, like you just get lost in those eyes. But yeah, man, I mean, this went almost like how I imagined it would, but I didn't know if it was going to be a case of, you know, like, that means we know his name now, Jogo, the volcano-headed dude. If, because he was just going to be outfought to an insane degree, that he would just have to rely on this, you know, prison seal thing, which, you know, he never actually did. You know, I thought he would have had it on his person somewhere, but it's seemingly that is not the case. We don't know where it is, but it's like the idea that Jogo was going there to just kill him and that was it. That was the whole plan. And so the fact that he's alive is yeah, he's lucky. He's lucky to be alive. Gojo could have done him in at any time. So they've gone with the plan of just sealing him then, which will happen on October the 31st. I don't know when that actually is, in regards to like what time this, like, you know, in this show, because I don't think we've had a date yet. I mean, that's the first date we've had, so I don't know how far along, like, away it is or what. But yeah, Gojo. Infinity is what he's got. He's got this, like, this barrier that seemingly can't get through. That there's almost like, and I think it's probably down to like the fact of, you know, his sort of whole thing with his domain expansion being void and whatnot, like almost like in the, you know, in space, in the universe. That's something that, like, the universe is like infinite because it's infinitely expanding away, and you can never reach it because, you know, nothing can go past the speed of light. So you can, it's something you can never actually reach the end of the universe. It's like, it's something that's an impossibility. And I think the fact that this infinity, like, barrier thing, he says the further you get into it, the slower you go. So eventually you will reach a point where you can't go any further and actually get him. Now, I don't know, like, to what degree of truth that is. I mean, because let's be honest, if that is the case, then it's impossible to get at him. It's impossible. Like, because, I mean, how would you get through that, you know? I suppose, like, there's things like the Hanami curse thing dude did with the flowers. I mean, but then Gojo was able to get, like, past that whole thing, you know? So, like, his mental fortitude is ridiculous as well. So, you know, like, I don't know, like, I don't know how you get past that. It's ridiculous. Like, he's, like, before when he said that he can beat Sukuna at full strength, like, you know, when he said it before, it was just like, oh, okay, like, I don't know if you're jesting or not, but, like, I don't know, just seeing what he did there just makes me feel like, God, maybe it's true. But, you know, you never know. I mean, you need to see exactly what Sukuna is like at his full, you know, his full power as well. So, you know, but, like, I mean, that is just ridiculous. I love the infinity thing. I love that. The slower it goes. So, like, the closer you get to him, like, it's just, it's like it slows down whatever's, like, within that, the closer it gets to him. So, oh, it's ridiculous. It's so mad. He's able to warp as well. I mean, why the fuck not? No wonder he can get anywhere as quick as he fucking wants. But, like, I mean, it's just ridiculous, man. God. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, obviously he's able to seemingly turn it on and off at will, right? So I guess the only way you could get at him is by catching him off guard, which you know, I mean, that Hanami curse, good at hiding his presence. That's how he was able to catch Gojo off guard there. So, you know, yeah, that's obviously a thing that we haven't actually gotten into before. But, like, I mean, we've talked about it before, like, it being very, very similar to the sort of Hunter x Hunter style of like Nen. It's very, like, similar, the cursed energy kind of thing. And so hiding presence is another thing that is something that obviously, you know, Hunter x Hunter does and everything. Well, a lot of shonen does it, really, you know what I mean? But, like, it's so easy to compare the two sort of powers in the show, like with Hunter x Hunter, I think. So yeah, Jogo, he's got this weird, like, I mean, he's still alive. I don't know, like, how much he can. I mean, he's a curse, so you would think he would be able to heal over time. He's not just going to be a head moving forward. Yeah, I mean, it's not the case anymore, but he had this weird, like, twisting ear dial, which I guess actually is something that's akin to how much power he can, like, put out, I guess. Which I thought was funny. And also the fact that, obviously, like, you know, the techniques that he was using, he was, like, forming volcanoes, like, elsewhere as well. So that was, yeah, that was pretty cool. Gojo said that, yeah, like, he admitted that it's, you know, that Jogo was actually stronger than Sukuna is currently. Again, like, that's kind of at least the power levels we are going off at the moment, is just by, like, Sukuna fingers, really. That's the thing that obviously makes the most sense. He's unregistered as well. Gojo did say that it was unregistered, something that they didn't know about. So yeah, it's interesting that they have registered and unregistered curses, things they know about, things curses that they don't. And that kind of just puts in, I guess, well, it's not going to be fear, but, like, the idea that, you know, you don't exactly know what's going on. The fact that, you know, he talks about it being like, oh, there's, like, a curse faction forming. Interesting. Like, you don't know how many is actually legitimately a part of that. We've seen the guy that we now know as Geto, Jogo and Hanami, and then this new character that we met at the end, Mahito. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought in the last like, when they went to the restaurant, there was 4 curses. Am I wrong? It was 4 there, so I don't know where the other 2 are. Now, if I'm completely wrong on that, I apologize. I just remember there being, like, 4 curses. I don't know where the other 2 went. So in total, there's, like, 6 at least, like, individuals, I guess, that we know of. So there's at least that. And then, like, whoever this, like, Mahito guy is, seemingly is half human, half curse, similar to Yuji. I mean, judging just by the way he looks, but also the fact of, like, what he talked about. Like, we need to be cunning, just like curses are, just like humans are. Then it reveals, like, his sort of, like, his face, and obviously he's got different eyes and whatnot. It's interesting, it's, like, almost, like, sewn up, which is interesting. Like, obviously, in some regard, he's obviously made conditions and formed a pact with whatever curse is a part of him. And yeah, so that's going to be interesting going forward. I did actually go back and look at what Hanami actually said, because I realised that they're just, you know, they're switching the subtitles around, so they're talking backwards. And it said, like, you know, we are the true humans after all. Which is an interesting sort of, like, wait, I don't know if he's just referring to what Jogo said in a previous episode, where he basically said that, like, you know, humans are, like, you know, they're completely sort of, like, stuck between different emotions and whatnot, whereas curses are just true and pure because they only feel like one kind of, you know, like, that's just, like, negative side, and that's the only thing that they stick with, and then therefore that's, like, the true, you know, like, the true power there. So I don't know if just calling themselves true humans is just, like, that, if that's what he's referring to or not, and that there's not more to it. I don't know. You know, but yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, another sort of look into the curses and what they're capable of, because obviously what Sukuna had said like some episodes ago is like, you know, I mean, you have no idea what curses are capable of. They're capable of obviously a lot of different things. Another one obviously we got was the flowers and the perception. So, you know, the flowers can obviously, you know, kind of take your attention away elsewhere. Is one way of putting it. Like things like illusions and whatnot, of course, are going to be a thing. And yeah, that's just like another interesting facet of it. I did like the whole domain like expansion thing, that it is like a boost to your stats. They refer to it like obviously a buff from a video game, so that if you're within your own domain expansion, all of a sudden like you're stronger because you're within it. And the fact that any attack that you put on an opposing, you know, person, curse, whatever, always hits. So that's just ridiculous. So obviously Gojo can take it. He can you know, the one attack that we saw where he literally just hit it back and obviously destroyed it, because Gojo can't do that. He's ridiculously strong. He says that, you know, that it's basically like you either hit it, you don't recommend that one, you get out of there, which is practically impossible, or you have a domain expansion of your own, and if you're stronger than that other opponent, you know, that it will overtake it, and then therefore you've got the control back. So yeah, Jogo's was called the Coffin of the Iron Mountain. I'm just going to refer to it as Mount Doom because they had a Lord of the Rings reference in this episode. I did say like it's interesting that is the movie he's watching. That when Gojo comes back, that, you know, that Yuji is able to control himself, and that I did say during the reaction, like Lord of the Rings is one of those that gets me every time. Like I cannot not cry at that movie. Like, you know what I mean? I'll be useless on that one. But yeah, fun little references. But yeah, I mean that's a thing now. So Yuji obviously quick to learn. He can control obviously his emotions and everything like that. So that's good going forward. It also means that like obviously later on when Gojo's like, right, we're speeding up the schedule and whatnot, he's got confidence that Yuji can you know, continue on with his quick learning and you know, get to where he needs to be. Of course, with this new information that there's a cursed faction out there brewing, that you know, Gojo is obviously, he's wanting this whole thing for this revolution anyway, right? But you know, to speed things up is going to be interesting. I can't wait to actually get to this exchange event either. You know, I did have a question with this, you know, Geto or whatever, which I believe he must be a tutor, because obviously he was talking about getting back because he doesn't want to be seen by like the like the other students essentially. Meaning that he is actually part of Jujutsu. Of course, I figured he must be. Like, there had to be someone on the inside, and I believe he's more than likely a tutor. Like, he looks to sort of, he looks more like kind of on that sort of, I don't want to say level with Gojo, because it's almost like after this episode, it's like, well, who's on the level of Gojo? Because seemingly no one. But what I mean is, like, he sort of has that presence of a more like a tutor rather than a student. You know, so I don't know. He could be a third year, maybe. You know, because we haven't had a lot of information on the third years. We know that they're suspended, which that's where, like, it's kind of like, you know, that's the only information we have, is that the third years are suspended and we don't know the reason for it. If like Geto is actually a third year, if Mahito is a third year, you know, you never know. You would think that if Mahito was, then it would be interesting, because obviously this whole Yuji Sukuna thing, like, they were like, you know, they were staying execution from it, right? If Mahito is a half human, half curse, which we seem to think he is, then that would be another instance of a state execution, you would think, right? But I guess it depends on which curse it is. the only reason why they want the stay of execution is because it's Sukuna and it's the fucking, like, the god of all fucking curses, right? So it's like that's like a different proposition to whatever Mahito is, you know. At least I'd imagine so. I mean, we know that Geto and Mahito have Sukuna fingers because they used one with the curse womb thing to, like, lure Sukuna out and whatever to see how powerful he is, and so, you know, we don't know how many of them they have, or whether or not Mahito is actually using one of the Sukuna fingers. If that is the case, I don't know, man. It would I mean, that would give some tiny bit of explanation if they are third years, which is, you know, it's, I mean, I don't know where their sort of apartment thing was, that obviously they went through the door and then they ended up in this sort of domain expansion themselves where they're on a beach. You know, I don't know, like, that didn't seem to be the same, like, that didn't seem to be the same dorms as what you know, obviously Yuji and Fushigoro's in and whatnot. I could be wrong. I could be wrong there, but, you know, you never know. But yeah, I mean, I do know from, like, last episode there was one mention of a third year called Hakari. Now, I believe, if I remember back to the guy, I think he was, like, he had, like, a buzz cut kind of haircut, right? It was definitely short, so it wasn't like Geto or Mahito, you know. But that's the thing, is, like, we don't know how many third years there actually are either. So, you know, that's just another thing. But yeah, I mean, regardless, we can assume that he's more than likely probably part of the Tokyo Jujutsu Hide, because, you know, obviously he has a lot of information on Gojo himself, you know, so we'll just assume that is the case for now. But obviously it is interesting, obviously, it being brought up about the sister school in Kyoto and whatnot, that, you know, you never know. I mean, fucking Geto could be, I don't know, on a excursion around Tokyo. He's just come from Kyoto. You never know. But I'm just going to assume that he's from the Tokyo group. So yeah. God, what else? That's pretty much about it. You know, one last thing. I think, you know, obviously that a couple of times Gojo mentioned it, Yuji mentioned it, that, you know, this, you know, Jogo can communicate clearly. Now, I don't think it's a case of just, however, you know, if they're a certain sort of strength that, like, from then on, it's like, I don't know, if, for example, if you take the power level thing and you say that, you know, this one is 5 Sukuna fingers powerful, that anything past that is therefore it's intelligent enough to communicate clearly. I don't think that would be the case. The only thing they could, because I mean, the reason is Hanami, really, because Hanami is the one that you know, that obviously does not communicate clearly at all. Geto can, you know, understand, you know, but it's kind of like, I guess if you've been around Hanami enough, you just decipher what it means, like, backwards, right? But I mean, that is quick. It's a quick. He's obviously intelligent, Geto, you know, and whatnot. I don't know. Maybe there is a curse technique where you can decipher and understand the, you know, any language. A translator curse technique. So maybe that would be incredible. I mean, I wish I had access to that, you know, because then I would be able to just watch the full Japanese without subtitles and it'd be great. But but yeah, that is an interesting thing, and if it's only applicable to some curses more often than not, like, Jogo could just be a special case that is quite rare with curses. You know, you never know. I mean, because that's the thing, is, like, I don't know how many obviously is in this curse faction, but it could have been a case where Geto and Mahito purposely sought out Jogo because he can actually communicate, and therefore it just makes things easier. Whereas other curses, like, you know, the curse womb one, like, obviously that didn't communicate at all. There was nothing there. So, you know, you never know. But yeah, I think that's it. I think I've got everything. It will be interesting going forward to see what, like, you know, we don't know, I guess. I would assume probably the first years don't have access to domain expansion. You know, if one of the first years was to have it, it would be Fushiguro, right? I mean, theoretically, you could say Yuji, but he doesn't have like the capability to actually do it yet, right? Because we know it's Sukuna, right? We know like it's his domain there, but you would think anyone that was actually capable of it, if they were to be in the first years, it would be Fushiguro, because it's seeming like he can do all of this different shit. He's extremely talented. You know, I doubt Nobara can. You know, we haven't seen enough of her to even assume that would be the case. You know, we haven't seen enough of the second years to assume that they can either. You know, but like, I don't know, maybe possibly third years. Like I said, if Geto was actually a third year instead of a tutor, then, you know, you would assume that he's probably capable. Just by the way that he is, he just seems very confident. So you could probably assume that they could. Like, I mean, it's the fact that, like, you know, Gojo purposefully, like, talked about in the last episode about obviously Hikari a third year, Okotsu the second year, which Fushiguro is very fond of, and then, you know, he said Yuji as well. Who are all capable of very like, you know, they're extremely talented. So I don't know, maybe it could be a Kotu second year is just like way ahead in terms of talent. Like, maybe he's just able to do more things. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously something going on with the Kotu, like whether he's being sent on a specific mission, like that, you know, something that only he could do. It would be interesting, because there's a reason why he's over in America, right? Like, he's the only one like over there. So, you know, you don't know, but yeah, I mean, definitely, like, as we go throughout the, you know, the show, eventually people like Yuji is going to be able to, you know, take hold and use the curse technique that Sukuna has, in which case he's going to be able to domain expansion that, you know, and get used to using that. It is going to be interesting to see, like, in this month leading up, you know, all of this training leading up to the exchange event, like, at what point does Gojo think that Yuji needs to get to? You know, like, are we saying that at the end of this month Yuji has to be able to use at least one curse technique? You know, like, to what degree, like, how much power is he able to use? We'll have to wait and see on that, but you know, it is interesting. I guess that's the one that, when I was talking about before about, you know, October 31st, we have no real reference for how long that is. Let's assume that Gojo does get sealed away, right? At least he's gotten to the, because they literally talked about it being a month, right? So let's say just for the fact that if it's going to be a month of training, it ends on the 31st. That means they have the whole of October to do that, you know, that whole training thing. And then after the training's done, Gojo gets sealed. At least he's given Yuji, you know what I mean, enough training to the point where he can actually fight. Because obviously, you know, without Gojo, who's going to truly train him to the point where he needs to be? You know, and there's nothing to say, like, this whole, you know, seal Gojo away. That's just to get him out of the way so he's not a problem. It doesn't mean, like, he's obviously dead. Like, I'm sure there's a way that you can, just like every cursed object has a seal around it, I'm sure you could just do the same thing with Gojo and unseal him, right? I mean, I assume that's the way that it works. But yeah. Anyway, regardless, another really, really great episode, another intense fight, and I didn't even think we would get to see Gojo's eyes this soon, but I'm glad we did, because they are incredibly beautiful. But that is all I've got, so thank you everyone for watching. In the description below, like I said before, of course, links you over to my Patreon, the bunch of tiers that are there. Early access gives you access to shows a week early. Full-length tier, which gives you access to full-length reactions to all the shows I do, and then the exclusive tier, which gives you access to full-length movie reactions, and for all the movies that I do and everything like that. Of course, with this being Jujutsu Kaisen, of course, there is the Zero movie. I will be waiting until I finish this show, the season 1 anyway, until I react to that movie. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. But anyway, that's all I've got to thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.